Howdy folks, this is Trader Big T with your trading lesson of today, where we will discuss live calls made in the Tim Alerts chat room. Well, here's a chart that we have been discussing for the past couple of days and has made Tim's list. Sunlink SSY, you can see the chart here, first down day, 17% down. Very good, and I made this live call shortly after the market opened. Stock started tanking. Let's pull up the chart itself. And we'll go back here in time. You can see where I'm pointing. Big giant candle here, right from the gun, right at 9, right in time for the market to open here. And I made this call because it had opened and quickly went red. And this was possible to enter a little bit more risky, and it fell so fast it was kind of hard. And then Tim entered at, I believe, 376. And this was a little later. This was like about, I think, about 10:30, somewhere around there, in that later time, that he managed to get into the stock as it started collapsing more. And he followed it down, and he covered later in the day when it started kind of going sideways. A few people wanted to get into that at that point. I think that trade is a little harder to take then because you don't have a buffer cushion. Probably the safest possible way was to enter would have been on that bounce that Tim entered, the second entry chance. This last one was playable, but you're more tempted to hold overnight to really get something from it, and you don't have a cushion margin. But it was just an excellent call all the way around. So I'm glad that everybody banked coin and should post your gains at the Tim Alerts website. Okay, and let's pull up Mise. That's our other stock. We know how that's been going. And there were some shares that came available at some of the brokers this morning. And right after the open, I think IB had some, and this faded real nicely. And a lot of people banked on it if you had the courage to sit while it collapsed more. And that was another really good stock that went down today. SMCE, this one has been talked about, and we kind of figured that it might collapse today, and it did. It kind of held on right at the beginning, and then started fading in this morning area here. Okay, B. This is an interesting stock, very strong for some time, and it was like a long candidate the other day. And what had happened is we reached a point where the stock had trouble holding, went straight across, had trouble holding this 450 area, and then several people went short right when it started to not hold 450. And a few of them eventually got unlucky as there was a spike over here right around this time here where I'm pointing, and it kind of took them out if they actually had physical stops. And it just happens that way sometimes. And of course, as Murphy's Law often works, it kept going down from here and eventually worked out pretty well, if you hadn't been taken out. It just goes that way sometimes. Your play doesn't always work out the way you expect it to do, and you just have to accept that. You can do everything right and you can still fail. Here's a perfect example of this. This would be NCT. And I called this right towards the beginning when it took out this area here, I think at 325. This was on a chart. Pull up a chart here. NCT. I have to go back actually some months. It's a bar chart, and over here in all the way from December, there's actually, I think there's 325, 325, and then there is a line over here where you actually touch that, I think, again. And in any case, it took it out. So could be a long, really strong volume here. You saw these big sticks, but then it just failed, and it was a failed breakout, a very classic textbook example. And I'm not sure I wanted to short that, but it did fail, and it kept unfading most of the rest of the day, kind of following the Dow. You should remember that a lot of the ordinary stocks are not promotionals. They're not pump and dumps. They're not stocks that will be unbiased as far as the Dow Jones is concerned. 3 out of 4 stocks will generally follow the market. So if it's an ordinary or real stock, you're going to have a lot of syncing with the market, which we're going to get to in a minute. Then we have Gent, G-E-N-T, and one of the traders said, you know, hey, this short worked out, and everybody was laughing and saying this is not a short. Well, the thing is today was different from the previous day. If we actually go and we take a look at 2 days, 2-day chart, and if you could see what was actually going on the day prior, you see this big gap up. This stock was very positive. It was green on the whole session, so it was never a shorting candidate the previous day. That would have been Wednesday. But now, when we move to today, move to the current day, right out of the gun almost, this thing started going red. So it was a potential candidate. It certainly wasn't an obvious long at that point in time. So it wasn't surprising that it actually went red. You shouldn't confuse individual trading outcomes with sound setups. That's a common mistake. Okay, ISCO, really strong today. People were making some money on it. I really didn't make too much of an issue over this particular stock. I wasn't really interested in it, but it did work out. Now, IFLG, I don't think this was the red show list stock. It was one on the list where we had a support area that needed to be busted. And once it took it out, and that was like around, I think, 616, once it did, technically it became a nice short. So if you did get shares, you were able to do it, but it's fairly illiquid. It wasn't weeks ago when Sykes played it. We had a really good play on it where there was a lot of volume and interest, but now it's a lot harder to short because it's just so little liquidity to the stock. But it went down, and then it eventually took out this $6 level. And once it did that, it was kind of off to the races, so that worked out very well. And I had alerted that in chat. Joes, this one has actually been fairly strong lately, and there was a later part of the day collapse that was kind of alerted in the chat room where it just smacked down late in the day. And that was a nice little play. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of the swing plays that I had in the TOS unfunded paper account. I had a pretty good entry on pay, and I believe it was today, where I got in, not too much after like $20, and it seemed to be holding the session after this sell-off. This is the multi-day down play where you'd enter like for a swing trade. Let me see here. We go back to a 3-month, and let's go type in pay. And you can see right here, it printed a hammer, and this was the previous day. And we actually had like 4 down sessions in a row, and we had this big volume stick. And see here, not a whole lot of actual size of the volume. You can see the length of the stick. So you might actually hold on a little bit, but it's very uncomfortable that it went down today. But it's a real stock. So what it does is, even though it has very strong fundamentals and was recently well rated by Zacks Investment Service to be oversold and looking for a bounce, it follows the market, and the market didn't perform very well today. As the day wore on, it got worse and worse out there. So it just goes that way. You can get a good setup and you can still lose. And here I had a good entry, everything seemed to go right, and then it just took all the profits, went away, and then in red on pay. Okay, same thing with AMCC. That was a previous day entry, and I was up and things were going well. The Dow went down, and when the Dow went down, it's just like sinking the charts. And it's real stock. It's not a penny stock promotional. ISSI. The previous couple of days, we had a play made by Tim with an earnings breakout, and it was a long, and our traders were shaken out of the position because in the like the 860s, low 860s, it penetrated that, so they simply had to get out. You are going to lose some plays, and sometimes after you've been stopped out, it comes roaring back and goes the other direction. You were proved right, but your timing was off, and that's just the way it goes. So right here, he's been being proven right here. He's just a little bit late, and that's happened before. And some of the things you can do to avoid that is, don't enter right at the first initial breakout and in the morning. Your afternoon breakouts, entering those can be a little bit more reliable, things like that. So this EC's working out well. Okay. Till next time, we'll see you in the trenches as you learn to trade with Big T.